Hi. Today's video, there was a post that I read many years ago. It's not my own, from somebody else, and I believe the owner, it belongs to @universe.guidance, and the post reads as follows. The person you are becoming will cost you people, relationships, spaces, and material things. Choose yourself over anything. So again, that post is not mine. It's not mine. It belongs to somebody else. And I'm sharing this because this one post really hit home for me. When I was in the 3D world, and it would have gone in one ear and right out the other. The moment I found out that I'm not just here as a physical being, but I'm here as a spiritual being, and that I've volunteered on behalf of my soul, and this realm that we're living in is but of a drop in the bucket compared to the ocean, or the ocean of the universe. When I started doing my own healing through the guidance of somebody else, I started releasing all the files and all the programming from back here. It became very evident that the game was on. And this is a game of life, and there's no pause, there's no reset button. I can add to that there is a reset in terms of a second chance or second opportunity for one to acknowledge, and initially when we did this, when we started living life, that I did things to the best of my ability. And then at one point, well, the thing had to fall apart. And thank God it did fall apart the way that it did, in a positive way. I'm sharing this because it was so profound for me. When the universe stepped in, and more importantly, when my soul stepped in, saying, hey, Stephen put a lot of time in from behind the scenes, that when you showed up here, you were to go through some experiences. But I also made a promise on the other side that when I showed up here, I would do whatever it took or whatever it takes to honor this soul agreement, this soul contract, and clearing out all of the low frequency dimensional mess. So the soul itself is ancient, it is super advanced, it is a massive positive entity of energy. And when the soul decides to come down here, it's come here for many reasons. And often the soul like this, and for most of the souls here, they don't want to come down here because of all this lower 3D emotional mess. That's the short of it. So when we show up here, it's not to all of a sudden spring from this 3D world into the 5D and then disappear from this realm. When we're showing up here, there's a major assignment here is to close up all the loops. What I'm referring to is all the emotional attachments. And the biggest triggers are going to come from mom and dad, because those two are the vehicle that when we show up from the universe and as a spiritual gateway, we show up through them, their assignment is to bring us from the spiritual realm into this physical realm. In my mid-30s and onwards, when I started doing the healing work, this is about a couple years in when I read this, as I started releasing all of the programs and all the beliefs from the subconscious, that message that I read earlier, it really hit home. And it hit home on a multitude of levels. It was not simply the understanding of reading a book or going to work or doing things. The game became real because the moment I showed the universe, I'm no longer interested, but I'm committed. And there was a big difference there. So for myself, I had given up at the time, I gave up my dream job as a commercial pilot, and supporting it was a 6-figure job. And when I walked away from it, the universe is like, okay. So I've taken a few of the necessary initial steps, and then the universe continued with it. They pulled the rug from underneath me, and everything went. So that was my fresh beginning, showing up here in Vancouver. As I started to release the old programming, and the old programming is attached to an emotion or a file which has a strong belief to it. And all of it it's all emotionally attached to it. From my own understanding of it, we are here we're not just as a human being, but as a human soul. So we're literally basically inside of a supercomputer. And in order to tap into this, I had to go back inside, I had to unplug and seriously commit with unplugging all of the nonsense. And I needed a lot of freedom from this, freedom from the negativity, toxic people, toxic way of thinking, any cultural interference, any family interference. And at one point that included the Roman Catholic interference. I had to remove all of it. And what I'm referring to is these are programs, and when I went inside and I started to unplug it, this is where I started to gain my own freedom with this. Meaning I wasn't controlled or dictated by somebody else from the outside. I was able to think on my own, and then at one point trusted my guidance with my light being, with my higher self, with wherever I needed to go with this. I'm sharing this because at some point right now there's a massive disclosure happening. And when the awakening happens on a much bigger scale, on a broader scale, whoever needs to see this as a form of inspiration, that I'll use me as the example. Along my own life, I met a lot of amazing people, a lot of necessary people that I had to meet. There's a lot of soul agreements I met, either positive, the neutral part, or the negative part. For every person I met, at one point, they all served a very, very valid purpose. And the best part of it was, whether I liked it or I didn't like it, it was there to show me that at one point I had to grow. And if I didn't grow, they were there in front of me to show this is what happens when I wouldn't grow. And then new people started showing up. So I wasn't attracting the old things anymore, I started to attract the new energy. And what I'm referring to is that when I decided to up-level my life and I made a commitment with my soul saying I will do whatever it takes here to clean up this mess, it was a tough one. A lot of the dreams, a lot of the goals at the time I had given up in order to make this thing possible. And I had no idea of what the involvement is. But what I can share with you is when I made that decision and I jumped into it, I jumped in with both feet with it. At the time it was a scary thing, and equally it was the most liberating and freeing thing, because the thoughts that are running in between here, the way I think, the way that my thinking, my thoughts, what I visualize, that becomes the outcome of my life for this. I had mastered very well at one point as a commercial pilot, and equally it wasn't serving me either. When I'm sharing this here with this post, it's not with being selfish. I'd say more, let me rephrase that. It's with being completely selfish and taking ownership of really everything inside of me, that the good, the bad, the dark, the ugly. And the moment I started having that and that ability of it and that ownership of it, things started to rapidly change in my life. So technically it was the best thing that ever happened. Even at times when I gave it my 100% or the best of it to my own ability, when I would fall flat on my face, I'd say, thank you very much. Thank you for showing me for something that is brand new or a new experience. And I've come to the conclusion that we're all coming here to have certain experiences, and without it being a duplicate or a recycled experience from the past lifetime, and we're all here to grow. I'm here to grow. I'm here to evolve, I'm here to speak, I'm getting out there with my leadership with this. And these are the necessary things that I'm coming here to learn. My stability was a big one, and my freedom. And in doing all this, I continued trusting that inside compass. So whatever resonated inside of me, the moment I acknowledged it, whatever that feeling was, I kept trusting it. Sometimes that level of trust got down to a couple millimeters or a millimeter or a half a millimeter, and I kept trusting it. And what I'm referring to is trusting that inner side, that inside voice, that gut side, that gut type feeling. And as I kept following it and I kept trusting it, things started to open up. Meaning the old started to release. And all these files, these are emotional files on the inside, when they closed out, it allowed for something else that was buried many, many years ago to surface. And I said, when it became in front of my radar, I'm asking myself, like, do I need this? Or is it time for it to go? So this is a quick video or a quick post on what's coming down the pipeline. So in order to grow in this new consciousness, it's not just simply merging into this 5D new world. It has to be something that's earned. It's an inside job. And simply getting the message out there that I'm very grateful and very thankful that I was able to do this. I thank the universe. the soul, source, God, creator, whatever you like to call it. And along your route, you'll meet some cool people and put out to the universe. I guarantee you get a response back. So again, a big thank you to @universe.guidance for their post. That post really hit home. It was very near and dear to me, and still rings a lot of truth to me for it. And that's it. So you can be kind with yourself, treat each other well. Until next time, have an awesome day.